Hello and welcome to the show. I am here with Albert of Sacred Self-Discovery.
How are we doing, everybody?
Oh boy. So today we are covering the topic of fear of failure. How it holds us all back, how it prevents us from even starting, how it just plagues our life and prevents us from, even planning our strides to our full potential. So what does fear of failing mean to you, Albert?
Fear of failing, what does it mean to me? It means not digging for the courage that we have within ourselves. That's really what that is what it is to me. Knowing that we full-blown can't dig for that courage and it's within us, and we don't even choose to look at it.
Right.
We let the fear just kind of overtake us. Yeah. So that's what that's a simple answer for that question. But yeah. So. Yeah,
so let's talk a little bit about, with fear of failure, it's also self-sabotage to some extent, where we have these great plans, we have all this ambition, but then it's like that fear of failure just allows you to just destroy it all before you even get started. And that's heartbreaking to many of us, especially to those around us that know that we can achieve more, and we're stopping it before it begins.
Here's a way you might be able to resonate and kind of feel what it is to actually allow that fear of failure in. Imagine yourself, you think of an idea and you think of some kind of project you want to get in on, and you could see yourself really being excited about it. And you start thinking about, how would you market yourself? How would you create this thing that you want to do? Who would you get involved? And you start going down this list of all these things, and it gets you really excited. And then all of a sudden you have this thought come in your head, and it says, what if I try to get these people involved? Excuse me. What if I try to get these people involved and they don't want to be involved, and then they make fun of me for the idea? What if I can't get the funds to be, like, I start buying some products and I can't, then the funds don't come up. And then you start going down this list of all these things that could go wrong. And immediately all that passion and all that excitement and joy that you have, you just literally sucked it out of yourself. So, and maybe you could resonate with that scenario, because we do it to ourselves often, and it's not even just for reaching our full potential, but it's for small little things that we do on our day-to-day basis.
Right, yeah. A lot of the time I'll see that even perfectionism is a huge factor, where a lot of people think like, oh wait, I have to wait until it's absolutely perfect before I get it out, before I put it out to the world, before I show anyone, and then before you know it, months will pass. You still haven't reached that perfection that you've just made up in your mind, these unrealistic standards that you're setting for yourself. See, for me personally, I see this perfectionism as the wrong route. I tend to look at things more of like an experimental mindset. So where I'm like, hey, so I have this idea, these big goals, these big plans, but you know what, let me take a moment, let me really think about, if I was to do it, what do I need to understand? What do I need to really experience? What do I need to be perfect at, right? So then I start tinkering with that idea. I start messing around to create a couch, for example, well, I need to, screw some boards together. So then I'll go out, okay, yeah, maybe I'll make a little chair or something and start screwing boards together, start learning from that experience. Because if you're striving for perfectionism and you don't have the skills needed to achieve it, you're going to fail. You're setting yourself up for failure, and then you'll take that and think you're no good. Your self-confidence will greatly diminish, but it's like you haven't achieved the experiences needed to acquire that perfection that you're trying to accomplish. So what I like to do, lay out a roadmap where it's more like I'm setting up these little experiences that allow me to experiment with tools, with ideas that I'm looking to achieve in the long term. What do you think?
I think with perfectionism, one thing that we could do to to get out of that mindset is we could just focus on what we are enjoying doing at that moment. So if like we get in on a project, say you're an artist and you are into painting, paint because you love to do it. You know, go to your canvas and paint because you love to do it. Allow yourself to get into these flow states and express yourself and just kind of go wild with it without any kind of standard of what needs to be done. Whether you think you need to impress somebody, whether you think you need to be able to make a certain amount of money on a piece and you need it to look a certain way to do so. Take all of these factors out of the equation and just do it because you enjoy doing it. And that'll allow all this perfection that you'd like to see. Eventually it will show up because you're just in the moment and you're passionate about what you're doing, and it'll just come out and you'll express that over time.
Another thing to keep in mind is to analyze the potential outcomes as well. So like I said, where I like to experiment, I like to first I set my goals, then I'm like, okay, let's experiment with some of the concepts involved. And yeah, so say if I'm screwing boards together, right? If I'm trying to create something, well, I'll learn quite quickly that I may need to pre-drill each screw hole. Whereas if I just start drilling in, it'll start breaking the wood, it'll start splintering the wood, it'll start cracking, fractures will start to come of it. And it's like, well, you have to consider stuff like that. And yeah, what kind of advice would you say for understanding potential outcomes?
Understanding potential outcomes? I'd say, actually, I'm more of just like straight experimentation kind of guy too. It's like I don't even expect things to be any type of way when I first get into them. I just kind of dive in, do all the stupid stuff that you're not supposed to do.
Right.
You know, learn a little bit. Yeah, and I try to take a very playful approach to just anything that could come about what I'm doing.
Right.
Just at least in the beginning, just to really get my mind out of that mindset that something needs to be a certain way and something, it needs to turn out a certain way.
Right. Even for me personally, I try and always look at failure as a potential learning experience, where it's like, oh wait, I thought this was going to be my result, but then actually this happened. So, I mean, I'm sure chemists see this all the time, if they make something wrong, poof, So always, it's definitely great to look at it as like a positive outcome whenever there's any failure happening with the projects you're working on, or, just in life, try and find the positivity, look at it as a learning experience, or else it'll, continue to haunt you. But stay positive, for sure.
I mean, one thing that's really interesting, to me was, for example, like, if as I'm doing a tiny house conversion, and when I'm working on certain aspects of the carpentry part of it, if something doesn't work out the way that I originally thought it was going to, not only do I learn something from that, but it also carries over into other aspects of what I'm creating. So it allows me, so like going back to what you said about learning from things you think are failures, not only is it setting yourself up to learn in the future for something, but it's also setting you up to, if you're being aware of and cognizant of what you're doing and just being mindful, that you could learn 5 other lessons from one thing you made, one mistake you think you made. You just learned 5 new things that you could apply it to in other aspects. So a lot of times there's a lot more to gain than what you think you failed at.
Right. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up?
No, I just just keep an open mind and going towards your full potential. Really allow yourself to sit in a place where you can do anything, and it's fear of failure, allowing yourself to just put yourself in a position in your own mind that you're dealing with all the fears that you think you could come up with. Anything that you think you're going to fail at, and whatever brings those feelings of anxiety, sit with them. like, you know, imagine yourself in that case. Oh, well, the worst case, I live in a tent, I'm out in a tent in the backyard. Like, sit with these experiences and really feel, you know, dive into them, question yourself, ask, do I care that people are judging me? Do I care where I'm gonna live? Like, just play with all the fears, and then eventually addressing them in your own mind and really feeling them out before you dive in really helps you process them. And sometimes they're not even fears that are worth keeping in, because some of them are just kind of like pre-programmed things from when we were younger. And
Right.
yeah, they're just set up. So you'll dive into them a little bit, play with them, meditate on them. That's all I gotta say on that. But,
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Some quick tips, just wrapping up the episode. Definitely, failure is learning. It's not a negative experience. With each failure, you can learn so much of how to do things the right way to achieve those outcomes those desired outcomes you're looking to achieve. And then also stay positive. And, you know, before you dive into a big serious goal, you know, you may want to start experimenting with desired outcomes beforehand, maybe on a smaller scale, something, just give them a try, you know, hey, no need to try and be perfect right out of the gate, you know? So thank you so much for tuning in, and also feel free to check out my bone decor at catacombculture.com, where I make handcrafted, hyper-realistic skulls and all kinds of different home decor as well. Also, check out more videos at www.catacomb.tv.
Thanks, guys. And if you'd like to connect with me or check out any of my services, check out www.sacredselfdiscovering.com. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for joining us. Until next time. And remember, always strive to reach your full potential.